recorded the fourth period today, but I forgot to turn the microphone on. So I'm going to record you guys a little bit today and post it on the website because I don't have time to stay after school today. But our goals today are to find the measures of central tendency and variability, or to look at two of them. To learn about what they are and which ones are we going to look at. So today, there's different measures of central tendency and variability. So that means a measure of central tendency would be something we might use to describe a data set. And then it is also something that could change. And depending on how much data there is, if there's new data points added. So the two measures that we're going to look at are called the mode and the range. And if you go to your note catcher, we have a space to write down the mode and the range. So I'm going to actually have you write that down, and then we're going to do an example of what it means. But looking down here, just reading aloud, the mode is the value that appears most frequently, so the most often in a data set. So think about what it means, write it down, and then the range was also in your homework 2 nights ago. The range is the difference, so that's like a subtraction problem, between the highest and the lowest values in a data set. So put those into your note catcher, and then we'll do an example with these. So looking at this, AJ, do you understand mode, do you think?
Yeah.
And then your note catcher, I think the numbers are a little bit easier to see. So for example, this is 0, 1, 2, and it goes all the way to 10. So in this example, first of all, AJ, what's this line plot about?
The amount of Pokemon around town.
Right, from the summer, I'm sitting there at Sweet Cow watching people find Pokemon. And so I thought, oh, when I make these note catchers, I'll have to include that. And so how many people are sampled here? That means how many people were surveyed? Riley?
A minute.
What are you doing when we're thinking? Are you
I'm adding all of them up.
counting the dots?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 20.
20 people surveyed, right? 20 people sampled. Okay, and then AJ, can you tell what the mode is?
3.
Raise your hand if you agree with that.
Or maybe.
You're actually right. So there's a little confusion because hardly anybody has their hand up. So you want to explain why you know the mode is 3?
Because the value that appears most frequently is 3 because there's the biggest amount of number in 3. Or
The biggest amount of dots. Here's the most dots. That means 6 people had 3 Pokemon catches. So that's the most common amount of catches. Do you get that? Can I get a thumbs up, thumbs down? Okay. So the mode is 3 catches. What was the most amount of catches, Quincy, out of those 20 people?
It was 6.
No, that's the mode. The 6 dots explains that 6 people got 3 catches. So like these people right here, they got 4 catches. So I'm asking, what is the highest amount of catches that somebody got?
10.
Okay, try not to blurt out, but do you see, you want to explain that, Eli?
Because if you look at the end of the line plot, the highest number that somebody caught was 10.
That's the maximum number of catches. Somebody actually got 10 Pokemon catches in this little survey.
Wait, did you actually survey?
No, I made it up. So Quincy, try the other one. What was the least amount of catches somebody got?
2.
Yes. Okay, now you get it.
Yeah.
So, and that's, you know what? Nobody had this figured out right away today, even though it's actually not that hard, it's all new. So the minimum was what, Reese?
The minimum is 2.
Right, okay.
Sorry.
So from the other day, we learned that the range is a subtraction problem. It's how far apart the highest and the lowest numbers are. So Jack, what am I gonna do to find the range?
You're gonna subtract 10 minus 2.
Exactly, so I'm gonna do a little scratch work or mental math. And the range is 8, and so that just says how far apart the data is. Okay, so what I would like you guys to do is to repeat some of that process with the graphs we looked at yesterday. Even though it doesn't have this typed in on your paper, mode and range, go ahead and write in mode and range, and write in mode and range. And then we'll compare answers. Okay, so John, talk to me about the title of the first box. What's this about?
The first one?
Yeah,
So
what is
hours
this?
of exercise per week for students.
Yeah, so we're talking about exercise for students now, weekly exercise. And what's the mode here?
5.
5 hours, that's correct. Okay. And, Brody, did you get the range? And John, how'd you get the 5 hours?
I just looked and saw.
Looked for the most dots, right? The mode is the most dots. Most dots. Lloyd?
That looks like 6 dots.
It's 6 dots. This is the great question that everybody's been asking all day. The most dots, there are 6 dots, but it represents 6 dots on 5 hours. These numbers are blurry here, but in your packet, I don't think they're quite as blurry. That's exactly why we practice. And that's the questions kids have had all day. So I'm glad we're doing this. So Brody, what's the range?
9.
And how did you get that?
I subtracted 9 minus 0.
Yeah, 9 minus 0, and in this case, it's just 9. Because there's a point on 0 and a point on 9. Okay?
How is there somebody that only did, somebody that did 0 hours a week?
They just don't exercise. Yeah, it happens. Here's an interesting thing. Would you say the mode is a pretty good description of that population? Like, could I say that it's pretty true that it looks like most kids exercise about 5 hours a week? Maybe not everybody, but in this group, around 5 hours. Would that describe the majority of the kids?
Mm-hmm.
It would. Now look at the coaches. So, Henry, what's the mode for the coaches?
8 hours.
It's 8 hours. Okay, now would you say that describes the coaches? No, right?
Because there's another.
There's a whole bunch of coaches that don't do anything.
Yeah,
Maybe they're so busy coaching they don't have time to exercise. So this mode right here on the top, that mode is a good description. But they're not always good descriptions. And this mode is not a great description. And that's one of the questions that you have to answer sometimes. So that one's not a great description. Sometimes the mode's useful, sometimes it's not. And what's the range there, Riley?
10.
Yeah, and we get it from 10 take away 0. And so the data's pretty spread out. Okay, Reese.
Exactly that.
Okay, so a better place to look at that, how to get the range, is looking down here where the definition is. We take the difference, which is a subtraction problem between the highest number and the lowest number. So the max here was 10, and the minimum value was 2. So to get the range, we did 10 take away 2, and we got 8.
Okay, I don't understand how we got a higher number than that.
It's just different data. So up here, it's just a whole different problem. This one's not about Pokemon catches.
Yeah, I know. So we've got 8 and
8's the most common number. But the range is just how far apart is the data.
There has to be a dot.
Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so, with a little mental math, you should be able to just write down the answers to this. So, I'm hearing a couple of good questions. Like AJ said, there could be more than one mode. So the mode here is 20 and 28. And the max number is where the last dot or the last X is. And so, what would that be, Riley?
43.
Right, 43. And the min is 8. So the range is the difference of 43 take away 8. And that's 35. Okay? So